Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Ranking and the Bias Plus reports. Today is June 28th, 2023, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. I am your co-host. My co-host.
There you go.
Jeez, starting off already.
What you drinking?
Let me have another drink. How about that?
What you got there?
My name is Ben Dickerson. I'm your co-host. And this is Ben and Barry on football. Oh, you already said that. By the way, again, like I said last week, this is kind of a slow time of year. Pretty much just baseball. But we do have some track and field coming up next week. But right now, we're going to stick to football. And with training camps beginning for some teams as soon as July 18th, and then the 19th, 22nd, 25th, and on down the line, seems to be a big issue nowadays with some free agents that are still out there and unsigned. There's a lot of speculation about where they might go. There's a lot of speculation about what teams might need and what teams could be looking at who. But it is getting close to training camp, and I would believe that if in fact teams have their eye on somebody, they would want to get them signed before training camp begins so they can get them in right at the beginning of the training camp and get a full camp in. So we're going to take a look at that. Who's available? Of course, there's hundreds of guys available, but I'm only going to look at the top 10. I actually have top 10 plus one. And when I get to that one, you'll know why I did it plus one.
Okay, all right. So in today's show, and again, let me remind people to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you will be notified. Our videos come out about once a week. And so you're going to do the top 10 plus one free agents in the NFL. And then we're going to do the fifth in our installment of Brain Trust of the NFL, where we will look at the AFC South division. Fun place to look. And then we'll look at our current events and hot topics on the Ben and Barry on Facebook page. Feel free to go there and take a look at what's there and visit us often, and you'll find our videos there probably first. So, all right, Benny.
Okay.
Let's hear about these free agents because, let me throw a wrinkle in the whole free agent thing. You know how you and I go back and forth about Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
Every time I hear about a quarterback that my coach, Kyle Shanahan, for my beloved 49ers, apparently this guy likes Kirk Cousins. He wants Kirk Cousins. And it really cracks me up considering how much of a reach they made for Trey Lance and what they were looking to do for Trey Lance. And now they're still talking about Kirk Cousins. And that's two completely different types of players. So, right now he's not a free agent or anything like that. Actually, I think this is his last year of his contract. So he might be on your free agent list next year. But it shows kind of what I call conflicted thinking and what's going on out there, especially with our free agents. Because some of these free agents, I don't know if they want to get signed before training camp. They might want to wait till somebody pulls a hammy or tears a knee out, and then there's a real need, and you got to pay top dollar. So tell us who's out there, and let's see what we got there.
I'm going to agree with you on the aspect of a free agent maybe not wanting to be signed before training camp, simply because most of these guys are veteran players and they're
they don't want to go to camp anyway.
They're getting up there in age and they don't want to go to camp. Not at least a full training camp, that's for sure. Now, I don't know about waiting around long enough for somebody to pull a hammy, but I think they would rather, if they could, miss part of training camp. And again, they can still sign him and pull that off. It's been done, but I understand what you're saying. The other thing you said, let me make sure I'm clear. You heard or read something about Kyle Shanahan wanting Kirk Cousins?
Oh, I've read this over the years, but I read something recently, you know. And again, this is remember we talked about this is the period of time for conjecture. So you hear all types of stuff. But basically, I believe what they're saying, if you look at the quarterback room for the 49ers, if Kyle Shanahan had his druthers, he'd pull Kirk Cousins in as his starter.
That's what you got from whatever you heard?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Confliction, yes, absolutely. Especially with the fact that he seemed to have his sights set on Trey Lance for a particular reason. That particular reason was that he wanted to tailor his offense for a dual threat quarterback. So wanting to have Kirk Cousins is completely opposite thinking of that. But hey, what the heck? It's Kyle Shanahan. I'm just me, you know? So anyway, that being said, I'm going to go through my list. I'll try not to spend too much time, but I want to put the information out there. Now, these are the guys that I consider still having some juice left. Okay. That's why I'm saying I think they're the top available guys that should be drawing interest from teams and guys that we should be seeing getting picked up between now and when training camp starts or shortly after that, which is like mid-July. So the first guy I got here is Yannick Ngakoue. He's an edge rusher. He's 28 years old. Last season, he played with Indianapolis. Now, he started 15 games. He recorded 29 sacks, a forced fumble. I'm sorry, 29 sacks. That's crazy. That'd be a record, wouldn't it? 29 tackles, a forced fumble, and he led the team with 9.5 sacks. Now, the funny thing is, this guy has been on 5 different teams over the last 5 seasons, but he has at least 8 sacks every single year of his career. You wonder how a guy that plays that consistently can continue to show up year after year after year on a different team. But for whatever reason, he signs these one-year deals. Either it's because he wants to or because the team wants to. I can't figure that out. I didn't dig that deeply into it, but that's the scenario for him. So now he's free again. He's also the youngest top flight edge rusher this offseason. So of the best edge rushers that are available, he would be the youngest guy, and he's 28. Now, there is some speculation about some of these guys between NFL.com, Pro Football Focus, ESPN. So I'll just throw some feelers out there because people may have some opinions on this. But the teams that the consensus or word on the street is where these guys best fit, I'll let you know that if in fact that's out there. And for Ngakoue, it would be either the Cleveland Browns or the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams need defensive line help, and he best fits probably at one of those teams. Now, the next guy I have is also an edge rusher. That's Jadeveon Clowney. He's 30 years old. He was the #1 overall pick in the 2014 draft, and that pick was the Houston Texans picked him up. Now, he only played in 2 games his rookie year before knee surgery shut him down for the season. Now, besides that season, his rookie season, he recorded less than 6 sacks only 4 times in his career. So what is that, Mr. Math Major, 2014 to 2022?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
How much time is that between 2014 and 2022? How many years is that?
14, that's about 7, 8 years.
Okay, 7 or 8 years. Only 4 times did he fail to get at least 6 sacks. So he's had a pretty productive career so far. His best total was 9.5 sacks in 2017. And in what could be considered a comeback season of sorts, he got 9 sacks in 2021. That was pretty recent. Now, he did that while playing with Cleveland Browns. He started 10 games for the Browns last season, but he only had 2 sacks. But he did record 28 tackles. He had 4 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and he had 1 fumble recovery. The best fit for him sounds like it would be either I was getting ready to say San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers, or back to the team that originally drafted him, the Houston Texans. Both teams need that help. He's 30 years old. Looks like he still has some juice. Next guy is also an edge rusher / outside linebacker. He's played in a couple different styles of defense. That would be Justin Houston. Now, he's 34 years old. In 12 seasons, mostly with the Kansas City Chiefs, only 4 times in those 12 seasons did Houston end up with less than 8 sacks. So again, we're pretty consistently productive guy we're talking about here. One of those seasons was in 2021 with the Baltimore Ravens when he finished with 4.5 sacks. But then he resigned with Baltimore last season, 2022, and he bounced back and had 9.5 sacks in 14 games. So again, looks like this guy still's got some juice left. He's obviously on the back end of his career, being 34 years old, but it looks like he can still be productive. I don't have any speculation of teams for him, but I'm sure there's somebody out there looking for help on the D-line. Now we move to another position. That would be cornerback. The best cornerback out there still left unsigned is Marcus Peters. He's aged 30. He has 30. Oh, listen to this. This is pretty. I thought this was pretty cool. He has 32 career interceptions and leads all active players in career interception return yards. That's, you get the interception, you run it back, not necessarily for a touchdown, but of course, if you get the turnover and you get a nice run back, that's great for your offense. This guy's got 822 return yards off of interceptions. Now, to put that stat into perspective, Hall of Famer Ed Reed was the last player to make it to 1,000 interception return yards, and that was back in 2013. Okay, so Marcus Peters is what, a little less than 200 yards away from that record.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. And again, this is a guy that looks like he's still got some juice. 13 starts last season for the Ravens. He only had 1 interception, but he had 6 passes defended. And that was after missing all of 2021 with an ACL injury. He also had 47 tackles, 1 sack. That's pretty good for a cornerback. If a cornerback can get a sack, that's interesting. Doesn't happen all the time. Charles Woodson was pretty good at that. 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. So he hits, he tackles, he's around the ball. I believe he will have a better year once he's 1 year removed from that ACL surgery. And he's got plenty of ball hawking skills still left, can still hang with most of the top receivers in the league. The great thing I hear, and of course I hate to try to get my hopes up too high, but the best fit for him sounds like it's the New York Giants. Moving right along, we have a safety, top safety still available. John Johnson, 27 years old. After his first 4 seasons with the Rams, Johnson was considered one of the top safeties in the league. That was in 2020. Since then, though, his production's fallen off a little bit, but he's only 27 years old. So he's still pretty young. Anything less than 30 in the NFL is considered pretty much still in your prime. Last season with Cleveland, he had 1 interception, 4 passes defended, but he's still pretty solid in coverage. He had 81 tackles, so he comes up in the box. He does hit 4 tackles for loss. He also forced 2 fumbles and had 2 fumble recoveries. No speculations on him. So again, another good defensive back that's out there that can help somebody. Next guy up, Dalvin Cook. Everybody knows Dalvin Cook. He's a running back. He's 27 years old, played his whole career with the Minnesota Vikings so far, but they decided to release him. I kind of feel like money had something to do with that. But anyway, Cook rushed for 1,173 yards and 8 touchdowns last year on 264 carries. That's important. You'll find out why in a second here. He's the only player in the league to rush for over 1,100 yards in each of the last 4 seasons. Let me repeat that. The only player in the league to rush for over 1,100 yards in his last 4 seasons in a row, I'd say he's still got plenty of tread on his tires for sure. He can definitely help somebody out there. Word on the street is this guy's headed to New England. It's a very strong word on the street. He went there for a visit.
Patriots?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it still remains to be seen if, in fact, they do pull the trigger and sign him, because there was also some word out there that Jets were looking at him. But I think the Jets like the young running backs that they have. And chances are he's going to end up in New England. Now, we have another running back, also age 27, but his name is Ezekiel Elliott. Now, here's the difference. Zeke has 1,881 total rushing attempts in his career, which is more than any other active NFL player. That's a lot of carries, bro. He got mileage on his tires. As a point of reference, Dalvin Cook, who we just talked about, has 1,282 carries. He's the same age and has only played 1 less season than Zeke. That's about close to 600 more carries for Zeke. On a or you can look at it this way. 600 carries is approximately 2 seasons worth of work. That's a lot of work. Now, Elliott did rush for 876 yards last year, carried the ball 231 times, which is low for him, according to his career stats. And he did score 12 touchdowns, which was pretty good, considering he was basically the number 2 option at running back / short yardage guy, you know. So, and he's pretty good in pass protection too. But of course, you don't carry the ball when you're pass protection. But the problem is his yards per carry average was only 3.8. So I think it's safe to say that his bell cow days are over. He won't be the leading running back for anybody anymore, but he could supply some depth. And if he can stay injury-free, he can help somebody out there. I don't have any speculation about where Zach may be going. Next up, DeAndre Hopkins, one of your favorite guys. He's a wide receiver. He is 31 years old. Nuke, right, Nuke. Hopkins only played 9 games last season because of injury. But in those 9 games, he caught 64 balls for 717 yards and 3 touchdowns. I have no doubt that with a full, healthy season, Nuke can still be a top NFL wide receiver and could possibly be a number 1 option, depending on who signs him. Now, when I say that, here's an explanation on that. The 2 teams that seem to be the best fit for him are the Buffalo Bills, which would make him a superstar second option, and the Kansas City Chiefs, which would make him, again, a number 1 option. So, like I said, depends on which team picks him up as to what his role would be. Okay, next up. I'm sorry?
No, it's interesting.
Yeah. Next up, a quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves. Teddy Two Gloves seems like he's been around forever, but he's only 30. Most of these guys are right around 30-ish. So if and when he gets picked up, it'll be his 5th team in 5 years. But he's still considered one of the best backups in the league. Best job in the NFL. His most recent shining moment was in New Orleans in 2019 when he filled in for Drew Brees, and he went 5-0 with the Saints. Unfortunately, from 2020 to 2022, he's only gone 11-20 as a starter. Those years were spent in Carolina, Denver, and last year in Miami. Played 2 games. He went 0-2, suffered a concussion and a broken finger. So it didn't end well for him last season. However, concussions and broken fingers are something you can get over. And he's shown that he can play just about in any system and he can learn just about any playbook. So best fits for him. Let's see, who could use a backup quarterback? Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Buffalo Bills. Those are his 2 options. Not his 2 options, I'm sorry. Those are 2 teams that may be looking at him strongest. Now, this guy I wasn't going to include But you sent me something earlier today, and it basically was the best free agent offense they could put out there of guys that weren't signed. You put a whole offense together. And the starting wide receiver on that offense was one Julio Jones. So I stuck Julio in here. I took a look at what's going on with Julio. Now, he's 34. That ain't young for an NFL player, and it certainly ain't young for a wide receiver. He signed with Tampa Bay last year after I think he had a season with the Titans where he didn't do too well or was hurt again. Unfortunately, week one, first game of the season last year, he was sidelined with a partially torn PCL, posterior collateral ligament. I think that's like in the back of your knee. Now, he was able to return in week 8. He finished out the regular season, but he only had, that's approximately 9 games I think he played after he came back from being hurt. He only caught 24 balls, 299 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's really, really pedestrian numbers, especially for a guy that was a superstar. No doubt about most of his season, most of his career, he's been considered a superstar wide receiver. However, in the very last game he played last year, which was a wild card loss to the Cowboys, he had a pretty nice day. He had 7 catches for 74 yards, and he scored a touchdown. The accumulation of injuries over the years puts his career in jeopardy. It really does. He's really getting to the end of the road, if you ask me. However, if he could string together a full healthy season, I think he can still be somewhat productive. I'm just basing that on what he's done so far over his pretty long and pretty much being a superstar career. Now, that's 10. This is number 11, quarterback Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is 31 years old. Now, after the Eagles selected Wentz number 2 overall in the 2016 draft, they traded away Sam Bradford. You remember Sam Bradford? You don't remember Sam Bradford, do you?
I do kind of remember Sam Bradford.
Okay. I think they got him from the Rams for a year or 2.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Rams.
Yeah. They traded him to the Rams. It was one or the other. But anyway, they let Sam Bradford go because they liked the way Carson Wentz looked in training camp. They committed to him as their starter. He had a decent rookie year. He threw for 3,782 yards, which is really good for a rookie. He had 16 touchdowns, but he had 14 interceptions. That was his rookie year. But the next season, he started 13 games, led the team to an 11-2 record, threw for 3,296 yards with 33 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions, and was the front runner for the MVP award. Then he tore his ACL. Of course, that was 2017. Some dude whose name escapes me right now, but he's got a statue down South Philly, came in, took over, and took him to
Mr. Foles?
Yeah.
That guy?
That guy. Anyway, he had people falling all over themselves. Where is he now, folks? But anyway, in 2019, fully healthy again, Wentz started all 16 games. This is still for the Eagles. But reports began to surface about teammates criticizing him. It was on TV and on the radio, quite a bit on talk radio, because they thrive on that kind of stuff. Criticizing him as being selfish and trying to do too much, always looking for the big play, throwing in the coverage unnecessarily, ignoring the easy checkdowns, things like that. Really selfish type of play. He did throw for 4,039 yards that year. He did have 27 touchdowns and, again, only 7 interceptions. But he took a helmet-to-helmet hit in the playoffs against the Seahawks. I think that was from Jadeveon Clowney, too. And he left the game with a concussion. After that, the 2020 season began, and that also started the downward spiral. Bad decisions, bad throws, costly interceptions, started fumbling the ball. He was a turnover machine. He got benched for Jalen Hurts in week 13 against the Packers, I believe they were playing. At that point, he led the league in interceptions with 15. He led the league in total turnovers with 19, and he led the league in sacks taken with 50. And that was after only 12 games. He ain't been right since, bro. The same issues plagued him in stints with Indianapolis and Washington. And at this point, there's a chance his career could be over. That's it.
It's funny.
That's all.
I recently played, again, I'm a Madden guy. And the one thing that I could pretty much feel comfortable about or assured of is that you can confuse Wentz. You can come out like in the zone, switch to a man, or come out in the man and switch to a zone, and you can confuse him. And, that's something that, I utilize a lot when I'm playing Wentz, and you can see how effective it is. And I'm sure after his second year, when they had a little more tape on him, and they kind of had an idea about what's going on, and with him, and they could pressure him. And the thing that we kept saying about Wentz was he'd be in the pocket with plenty of opportunity, the pocket breaking down, but he had opportunity to throw the ball away, and he wouldn't. He'd just go down, and it was maddening. Even I'm not even an Eagle fan; I'm just a football fan, and I'm like, dude, throw the ball away, will you, please? So I'm not sure about Wentz, but the best job in the NFL, it might be a place for him in terms of that.
That's been questioned also. Some people don't think he has the right frame of mind to be a backup.
Okay. Well, his mindset has been a question all along. So, all right. Crazy. So right now, Wentz is on the market. No idea where he might go.
Nope.
Okay. Who else you got?
That's it.
That's it. We finished on a high note. On a Wentz note.
Yeah.
He's out, but we have no idea where he's going to go.
None.
He made some wild plays in his time. I mean, I just remember watching one game, and it was almost Randall Cunningham-like, the way they would come at him, and even though he's so tall, he would duck underneath of them and then look downfield and throw a 30 or 40-yard, strike, early on. And then, like I said, all of that sort of dissipated. Well, Ben's top 10 plus one available free agents for the NFL, That's not a bad list. Nobody's coming to my Niners, but you did have one that was for defense that you liked, your Giants, right?
Yes.
And who was that again?
That was Marcus Peters, the corner.
Marcus Peters. Whose place would he be taking that corner?
Well, after Bradbury left and went to the Eagles, and since then he left again. I believe he went to the Saints. I forget who they replaced him with, but a veteran like Peters is really a tough guy. The knock on Peters is he takes a lot of chances. He gambles quite a bit. You know what I mean? But again, he's got a lot of career interceptions, and when he gets the ball, he can go with it. You know what I mean? So got great ball skills still, even at the tender age of 30. So I would love to have him, to tell you the truth. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, 30 is, he's fine at 30. I don't have a problem with that in terms of age. All right, fantastic. Thank you for that. Next up, Benny, we're going to take a look at the brain trust for the AFC South. You ready for that? All right, let's take a look at the first team in the NFC South, and we went by a record here. So that's how we got to who's going to be first, who's going to be second. And we start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. General Manager Trent Baalke, Head Coach Doug Peterson, Offensive Coordinator Press Taylor, Defensive Coordinator Mike Caldwell, Special Teams Coordinator Heath Farwell, and quarterback Trevor Lawrence. So let's start out, Benny, talking a little bit about Trent Baalke. He was hired as the Jaguar general manager back in 2021. He's out of Wisconsin. He has a bachelor's degree in health and physical education. And he played outside linebacker and was the All Northern Sun Conference and All Midwest Regional honoree for Bemidji State, Bimidgji State in Minnesota.
What's that, Division 7? Come on, man.
He was an outside linebacker. That was the main thing. He began his coaching career as a graduate assistant at North Dakota State in 1989. So he's been around for a long time. He helped them finish with a 14-0 record and a Division II national championship. How you like that?
I'll take that.
He worked as a defensive line and strength and conditioning coach at South Dakota State until 95, and he was the athletic director at Shanley High School in 96 and 97. So he was getting a variety of experience.
You said Shanley?
Shanley, Shanley High School.
Oh, no, it's somewhere else. Okay.
He started his NFL career as a personnel scout with the New York Jets from 98 to 2000. 2001, he went to Washington as the national scout and college scouting coordinator. He spent 12 seasons with my beloved 49ers. He went from Western Region Scout to Director of Player Personnel to Vice President of Player Personnel and spent some time as the GM. In 2011, he was named the Executive of the Year by the Pro Football Writers of America and Pro Football Weekly. I guess my Niners went from 6-10 to 13-3.
Yeah.
While he was there. The Niners, while he was there, appeared in 3 consecutive NFC championships from 2011 to 13 and the Super Bowl. All of that while Balky was with the organization. He began overseeing all player acquisitions in 2010. He has accounted for 9 All-Pro selections. Overall, the Niners produced 24 All-Pro selections. They have a lot of Pro Bowls in here, but I'm not including the Pro Bowl.
But that's the stuff that gets you GM of the Year awards.
That's the stuff that did it, that will do it, right? He joined the Jaguars in February of 2020 as the team's director of player personnel before being named interim GM, and now he is the GM. So that's Mr. Trey. It's interesting. Not all GMs had football experience, even at the high school or lower level college level.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to make sure that I included that. Now,
he had playing experience and coaching experience.
And coaching experience. Yeah.
Almost every GM we talk about has scouting experience and front office experience, but not everyone has playing and coaching experience.
Awesome. So true. So true. So true. Well, you talked about Carson Wentz, and some of that time Carson Wentz was here, I do believe Doug Peterson was his coach, eh?
Yes.
It says here that he was hired as the head coach by the Jaguars in 2022. He's from Bellingham, Washington, and attended Northeast Louisiana, now Louisiana Monroe, where he was a 3-year starter at quarterback, finishing his career with 6,445 yards, 33 touchdowns. He was 571 out of 132 passing. A 12-year NFL veteran. Played quarterback for the Packers, the Dolphins, the Eagles, and the Browns. He was originally drafted by the Panthers in the 1995 expansion draft. You see, now that was a little bit before when I was really following closely. You might know a little bit more about that. He played for the Packers from 96 to 98 and 2001 to 04, was part of the Packers team that won the Super Bowl 31, 2 NFC championships, and 6 division titles. This guy has been coached, Benny, by Don Shula, Mike Holmgren, and Andy Reid. So he's got some serious coaching in his background.
Much respect for Dougie P.
He started out as an offensive quality control coach with the Eagles. Then he coached the quarterbacks. Then he was the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs from 2013 to 2015, helping them to a 31-17 record. Working with Alex Smith, of all people, when he left my beloved Niners and went to the Chiefs. In 2016 to 2020, as the head coach for the Eagles, he compiled a 46-39-1 record. He coached Michael Vick, Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles. So there's so much here about Peterson. He led the Eagles to their first ever Super Bowl in Super Bowl 52 with a 41-33 victory over the Patriots. So, you can't say much bad about Coach Peterson as far as I'm concerned. And as far, not that I'm even an Eagle fan, but he's done for the Eagles what nobody has done before, and that's helped them win the Super Bowl. And he did it with a backup quarterback, much less. In the biggest game of the year. So big ups for that. Now, offensive coordinator, Press Taylor. Press is out of Norman, Oklahoma, went to Norman High School, served as a graduate assistant quarterback coach at Tulsa, where he helped the Golden Hurricanes win the 2012 Conference USA Championship and the Liberty Bowl title after finishing with a 10-3 record. From 2013 to 2020, he served in a variety of roles with Philadelphia and worked with Doug Peterson until 2020. He started out as a quality control coach and then was promoted to offensive quality control assistant quarterbacks coach, and then became the quarterback coach before adding passing game coordinator to his titles. He spent 2021 season as a senior offensive assistant with the Colts, became the offensive coordinator for the Jaguars in 2022. He and his wife have two daughters, Teal and Carolina Lee, and one son, Woods. His father, Sherwood, played and coached at Oklahoma. Now, does the last name ring a bell for you? Press Taylor?
Yeah, he's Zach Taylor's brother.
He's Zach Taylor, head coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, brother. Absolutely. So, talking about having those genes, those coaching genes. Let's talk quickly about Mike Caldwell. Mike went to Middle Tennessee State, where he earned a spot in the Football Hall of Fame for them. He is an 11-year NFL veteran, having played with the Browns, the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Eagles, the Bears, and the Panthers.
Yeah, was he a linebacker?
Was he a linebacker? Yes, because when he started with the Eagles, there's this word again, intern, right?
Right.
Training camp intern in 2007 before spending 2 seasons as the defensive quality control coach. He then spent 2010 as the assistant linebackers coach before being elevated to linebacker coach until 2012. Spent 2 seasons coaching linebackers for the Cardinals. From 2015 to 18, he was an assistant head and coach, inside linebacker coach with the Jets. And he spent the last 3 seasons, 19 to 21, as the Buccaneers inside linebackers coach. 2022 became the defensive coordinators for the Jaguars. He has a son that plays, Sydney, who plays for the University of Pennsylvania basketball team. Yeah, so. Okay, Benny, so special teams coordinator Heath Farwell. This is his first season in Jacksonville, his 6th season in the NFL. Most recently, he was the Bills special teams coordinator. He brings 6 years of coaching experience and 10 years as an NFL linebacker, playing for the Vikings and the Seahawks. And that was between 2005, the Vikings to 10, and then from 11 to 14 as the Seahawks. And he served as the Seahawks special teams captain when they won Super Bowl, what's that, 48, I do believe. Super Bowl 48 with the Seahawks. So he's got a little bit of championship in his experience there. So congratulations to Mr. Heath Farwell. And again, a linebacker, Benny. You know, we like linebackers.
Mostly special teams guy. He wasn't a starter, I don't think.
Hey, he was on the team. I don't think he was a starter either.
Oh, no, he was on the team.
No, I'm saying he was on the team. That's the main thing, because that was the Legion of Boom, right?
Right, right.
So he would have had to replace somebody serious. Okay,
Yeah.
so Benny, the last part of the brain trust, when we take a look at him, is always going to be the quarterback. He's got to execute these plans. He's the one that they chose. And they got a good one. They got Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, Ben, became the first quarterback in the Atlantic Coast Conference to win 3 ACC championship games and was only the 6th in history to record at least 10,000 career passing yards. So he's a Clemson guy, only one of 19 players in Clemson history to be a 3-time All-ACC academic team honoree. He was the 2018 ACC Rookie of the Year, ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year, second team All-ACC, AP ACC Newcomer of the Year, and All-ACC Academic Selection. This is his, what, second, third year now?
I think he's going into his 4th year.
Let's see here. So he spent his first 1 or 2 years with a crazy coach. And
that's one way of putting it.
That's one way of putting it. And an article I saw that says here that for the first time, he's going to be able to play and not think. He said to have the same staff, to have a lot of the same players, to have that carryover, and the system being the same. He said it feels good having that and being able to focus on little parts of my game instead of just making sure I got the installs and know the plan coming into practice. He said during OTAs, not having that stress of just learning the playbook, I can just really focus on my game and my mechanics. Yeah. So that's what you want to hear from your quarterback. They've had enough stability. They have a little bit of experience with the playbook now. And let me tell you something, you know this and I know this, but it's about execution, which is funny that I can't say the word. But long story short, with a coach like Doug Peterson, an offensive coordinator like Press Taylor, he's getting good information. And if you know your plays, and to me, that's what it's really all about, knowing your plays to the point where you know all of your options. Like on any pass play, you generally have anywhere from 3 to 5 options, if not more, that you can go to. And it's not a matter of trying to think about it. It's a matter of you can look at the defense, you see what the defense is doing, and you know who's where. So I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in his second year. What do you think?
Well, this is actually going into his 3rd season.
3rd season, okay.
Yeah, I just looked it up. He's going into his 3rd season now. And
second with Doug Peterson, though, right?
Second with Doug Peterson, that would be correct. Yeah, okay. I see we're kind of trying to forget about the Urban Meyer year.
Oh my God! He gets my empathy, if not sympathy, for having
to have to go through that mess.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And the funny thing is, since we're talking about Trevor Lawrence here first, Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys, and there's others. We could probably come up with several if we thought about it hard enough. But as soon as you start talking about him being in college and all his college accomplishments, I remember Trevor Lawrence being one of those guys that was pegged for greatness in high school.
In high school.
In high school. In high school, they said, this is the dude. This guy's going to be great in college. This guy's going to be great in the NFL. This guy might be a Hall of Famer. That's the way they talked about Trevor Lawrence. And his college career made it very hard to argue that they might be onto something. His college career was tremendous, tremendous. I really like Trevor Lawrence a lot. We talked about Trent Baalke. I've mentioned several times my respect for Doug Peterson and the fact that he came up and learned through Andy Reid on the Eagles and on the Chiefs, which kind of makes me feel good about Eric Bieniemy. I know we talked about him already last year, but he kind of had the same trajectory, at least on the Chiefs side of things. Press Taylor, I believe, came through the same coaching tree as his brother, which would have been the Mike Shanahan tree.
It's starting to sound like my Niners is like a coaching factory, isn't it?
Yeah, well, really, it's his dad. His dad started the factory, Mike Shanahan. So that's where McVay and all them, and they are, a bunch of them all coached together on the Washington team before they started getting head coaching stints and coordinator stints in other places. So that's the coaching tree that they come from. I like Mike Caldwell simply because I know and I remember Mike Caldwell as a player. He wasn't a great player, but he was a player. He played for several different teams. So I think he's going to do a fine job there as DC. I wasn't familiar with the special teams coordinator, but it sounds like he's played special teams. He's played in the NFL. He has a ring. He should get respect from his players, and that's a big deal. And again, Trevor Lawrence, now going into his second season with Doug Peterson, everything's going to get a lot easier from here on out. Now that the system is established, his checkdowns are established, all his schemes and all that stuff, everything should come easier to him. He has nowhere to go but up. I'm expecting big things from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, let's see who the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to have to contend with here in that division. And we go to the Tennessee Titans, where we have GM Rand Carthen, head coach Mike Vrabel, offensive coordinator Tim Kelly, defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman, and quarterback, still listed as a starter, Ryan Tannehill. Malik is waiting in the wings, but they haven't listed him as a starter yet.
They're not going to either. That's a story for another day.
All right. Well, let's start out with one Mr. Rand Carthen. Now, Rand is short for Arandic. He's born Arandic Cornell Carthen.
Okay.
He went to school down in Key West, high school down in Key West, Florida, and is the Titan. Okay, let's say it again. And is the Titans' 14th general manager. He spent 6 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers, including the last 2 as the team's director of player personnel. He entered the NFL as a pro scout with the Falcons back in 2011. He spent 5 seasons with the St. Louis/Los Angeles Rams as director of pro personnel. He was director of pro personnel for my Niners from 2017 to 2020. And He was responsible for evaluating the top college prospects and assisting in the construction of pro free agent board and evaluations with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, where they reached 3 playoff appearances, 2 division titles, and a division championship in 2019. He actually played. He played 3 seasons in the NFL with the Colts after entering the league as an undrafted free agent. He tallied at the University of Florida 1,353 career rushing yards over 4 seasons and was part of the Gators' 2000 SEC championship team. His father played for the New York Giants and the Colts, and coached in New England, the Jets, Detroit, Dallas, Cleveland, Arizona, and the city. His dad is Maurice Carthen.
Yep.
All right, there's your Giants. He got his bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Florida. As a member of the Rams in 2013 and 2018, selected to participate in the NFL Career Development Symposium at the Wharton School of Business, and he took part in the inaugural NFL Coach and Front Office Acceleration Program. So he's on the path to the top there. He's recognized there. Head coach Mike Vrabel. Well, Benny, Mike Vrabel was a linebacker. He played defensive end for Ohio State, but he played linebacker for the Steelers, the Patriots, the Chiefs from 2000 to 2010. It was funny. I read this piece in here about what Belichick said about him. It says, upon the trade of Vrabel from the Patriots to the Chiefs in 2019, Belichick said, Mike Vrabel epitomizes everything a coach could seek in a professional football player: toughness, intelligence, playmaking, leadership, versatility, and consistency at the highest level. His wit and personality is one of the things we've all enjoyed. Witty is something I never attributed to Vrabel. Okay, that's, so of all the players I've coached in my career, there's nobody I enjoyed coaching more. He joined the Titans after 4 seasons with the Texans. And during the time in Houston, they had one of the top defenses in the NFL. So he started out as a linebacker coach going back to 2011 at Ohio State. He also coached the defensive line. He was named Big Ten Recruiter of the Year by ESPN.com. He was selected by the Steelers in the 3rd round of the 1997 NFL Draft. Let's see. He was a 2-time winner of the Big Ten Conference Defensive Lineman of the Year and graduated with a degree in exercise science. You ever heard of that degree before?
The gym teacher.
Him and his teammate, Luke Fickell and Ryan Miller, teammates, co-founded the 2 and 7 Foundation, a nonprofit promoting reading by providing free books and positive role models to kids in need. So he's done it all. He's out of Akron, Ohio. And, what can I tell you, man? When you get that kind of what's the word? Commendation from Bill Belichick, that's big time. That's big time. So offensive coordinator Tim Kelly, just taking a quick look at his timeline. His timeline goes all the way back to 2008 when he was a defensive graduate assistant at Illinois Wesleyan. He became the defensive coordinator at Minnesota State and Moorhead. He was a graduate assistant at Ball State and Penn State and became the offensive quality control coach in 2014 for the Texans. He was an offensive quality control coach. They added assistant offensive line coach to his work. He also coached the tight ends for the Texans until 2018, in which time, 2019, he became the offensive coordinator, adding quarterbacks coach to that for the Texans. And in 2022, he was the offensive passing game coordinator for the Titans. So now he is the offensive coordinator for the Titans. So Texas, Titans, Penn State, Ball State, Minnesota. He's done a little bit of it all. Back in high school, he was a member of the East Suburban Catholic Conference Hall of Fame, Benny. Got his bachelor's degree in sports administration from Eastern Illinois, where he started all 48 games at defensive tackle. So he's got a pretty long and varied coaching career. He does. His brother Dennis is an NFL offensive lineman who spent 5 seasons with the Titans. Defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, his timeline says that in 2019, he was an assistant linebacker coach for Georgia Tech, became the he was an offensive graduate assistant and a defensive graduate assistant for Ohio State in 2012, linebacker coach at Kennesaw State in 2013 to 15. He joined the Texans as a defensive assistant in 2016. In 2018, he worked with the Titans as outside linebacker and became the Titans defensive coordinator in 2021. So there's your Shane Bowen. Let's see what I have on him. Anything else there? All right. So that's pretty much enough. You can always look up more stuff on this guy, but long history of coaching. Let's see here. Next up, we have special teams coordinator Craig Aukerman. Now, Craig started out, his timeline goes all the way back to 2000. He was a wide receivers coach at the University of Findlay, Ohio, which is right near where my dad is from in Lima, not far. Findlay is nowhere from there. He's a graduate assistant in Miami of Ohio, linebackers and special teams coordinator for Western Kentucky, a coordinator for Miami of Ohio, linebackers coach at Kent State. In 2010, he became a defensive assistant for the Broncos. In 2011 for the Jaguars, and in 2012 became the assistant special teams coach for Jacksonville. 2013 became the assistant special teams coach for the Chargers, and then became their coordinator. After that, he joined the Titans as assistant special teams coach and became eventually a special teams coordinator. So that's one Mr. Craig Aukerman, whose timeline goes pretty far back. Now, Benny, you kind of shook your head a little bit when I talked about the quarterback portion of the brain trust for the Titans. One, Mr. Ryan Tannehill. Now, Ryan Tannehill has had an interesting career, brings experience. He's a veteran. They traded for him in 2019. So now it's 2023. He's had a certain level of success. They gave him a multi-year extension in 2020. I'm not sure where he stands in his contract right now. But he's had some highlights. You know, he had 3,734 passing yards in 2021. In 2020, finished 5th in the NFL in passer rating. In his first season, he led the Titans to a 9-4 combined record and won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year as in addition to his first Pro Bowl. He was named AFC Offensive Player of the Month in 2019. So he's had a number of years as a quarterback, and I won't go too far into it, but he founded Tannehill's ACES Achieving Communications Education Success Program with his wife, Lauren, which consists of 17 sophomores from American senior high schools, and is focused on awarding scholarships to the participating students who strive for good grades and who took on an active role in the community by hosting monthly events. He took on that, hosting monthly events to reward the students and help them give back to the community. So his father, Tim, played wide receiver at Texas Tech. So there's your brain trust for the Tennessee Titans. Rand Carthen, Mike Vrabel, Tim Kelly, Shane Bowen, Craig Aukerman, and quarterback Ryan Tannehill. There you go. What you got on that?
I'm not impressed. I gotta like Rand Carthon because I remember him as running back at Florida.
Dude.
Yeah, but I really remember his dad, Maurice Carthon, who was a fullback, almost in a position that's extinct in the NFL now. He did play for the Giants. He did play in the USFL, and he was a pretty good player. He's tough nose, good blocker, good lead blocker, and ran the ball with authority. That's all I got good to say about him. Mike Vrabel is the biggest name and the most important name in this group. Mike Vrabel was a good linebacker right off the bat as soon as he got drafted by the Steelers and became a great linebacker with the Patriots, has several Super Bowl rings. And, you know, it's funny, you said something about him being witty. I don't know what's funnier, him being witty or the fact that Belichick actually mentioned it.
I know.
Okay, that's funny too. But everything that Belichick said about him, I can believe it. Just from watching interviews, watching him on the sideline, his body language, the way he talks to his players. This guy's a winner. He's a big-time winner. And if the Titans are smart, they'll hang on to him as long as they can. I can't say the same thing about the OC and the DC. It looks like the DC has been the DC there for one season already. So this would be like his second season, if I heard you correctly. But I think Tim Kelly, I think this is his first season as the OC. This offense needs a lot of fixing. And I don't know if he's going to be able to get the job done fixing it with a quarterback like Ryan Tannehill, who's on the back end of his career and couldn't even put up 3,000 yards passing last year. Now, he didn't throw a lot of picks. Looks like he threw like 6 picks. But then again, like I said, he's getting up in years. He's not real mobile. He can't take the hits like he used to. He actually only played 12 games last season. So things are beginning to come apart for that offense. So Tim Kelly's got his job cut out for him. Defensively, they need work also, but not as bad as the offense. Special teams coach sounds like he's done that for a couple of different teams, so I'd say he's probably solid. But yeah, Tannehill's on the back end of his career, and I don't know that Malik Willis is the answer to their problems. I haven't heard not one good thing about Malik Willis in workouts, preseason, camps, or anything that would lead me to believe that he's ready to take over there. So that remains to be seen. Titans got a long way to go.
Titans have a long way to go. Tough division, tough division. All right, that's it for the Titans. Indianapolis Colts, GM Chris Ballard, head coach Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter.
Oh, geez.
Defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley. Special teams coordinator, Brian Mason. And we have a host of quarterbacks as a possibility. So we're going to take a look at all of that right now. Let's talk first about GM Chris Ballard, okay? Now, after college, Chris Ballard became a history teacher for Hitchcock Junior High and started to work with their football program. He joined the Texas A&M Kingsville Javelinas football team, coaching wide receivers after that. And he also coached secondary and defense. He joined the Chicago Bears scouting department in 2001. And in 2012, he received a promotion to director of pro scouting. He joined the Kansas City Chiefs as director of player personnel and remained in that position until the end of 2014, in which he received a promotion at that time to director of player personnel. Director of football operations. That was the promotion. So he went from director of player personnel to director of football operations and stayed with the Chiefs until 2016. He was involved with drafting Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Marcus Peters. In the midst of the 2016, he was introduced as the new general manager for the Indianapolis Colts. Kind of weird. It says he was reportedly attracted to the job following the dismissal of Ryan Grigson because of the local ownership and team history. He immediately began a roster makeover, mostly on the defensive side, where he cut 4 starters. He said they would have a losing record. Prior to his second season, he fired Chuck Pagano. Oh, everybody loved Chuck. Despite announcing that they had signed New England Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels unexpectedly withdrew from the agreement. I remember that. Do you remember that?
Yep.
In 2018, the Colts announced Frank Reich as their new head coach. So they went with Frank Reich. Ballard was named the NFL Executive of the Year by the Pro Football Writers in 2018 and in 2021. And he signed a 5-year contract with the Colts. So he is the GM, one Mr. Chris Ballard. Now, Shane Steichen, first year coach with the Colts, leaving the Philadelphia Eagles. He previously served as assistant coach with the San Diego/LA Chargers and was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles and spent some time as an assistant coach for the Cleveland Browns. He was a 4-year letterman at quarterback at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He was a running Rebels, right?
Yep.
Well, that wasn't just the basketball team.
Nope.
He said his best performance when in the senior year, he came off the bench and threw 5 touchdowns. In 2011, he was hired by the San Diego Chargers as a defensive assistant. In 2013, he was hired by the Browns as an offensive quality control coach. 2014, he served as the offensive quality control coach for the Chargers, worked with the wide receivers. 2016, promoted to quarterback coach Philip Rivers, as a matter of fact, and during Rivers' more productive time. And 2018, he was promoted to interim offensive coordinator after the team fired Ken Wisenhunt. In 2020, he was promoted to full-time offensive coordinator, working with Justin Herbert. So he's got that in his background also. And In 2021, he was hired by the Eagles as the offensive coordinator under Nick Sirianni. Okay. So he's coached Jalen Hurts there also. So that's head coach Shane Steichen taking over for the Indianapolis Colts. That's an interesting group of quarterbacks that he's coached, considering the group of quarterback that he has in camp. We'll talk a little bit about them. But first, one Jim Bob Cooter is up. Now, Mr. Cooter started out in let's see here, go back here. All the way back in 2007, he was assistant with Tennessee. 2009, he was a staff assistant with the Colts. He was with the Colts, looks like through 2012, where he became an offensive quality control coach for the Chiefs. He then moved over in 2013 to the Broncos. He spent 2014 to 2018 with the Lions as a quarterback coach and as an offensive coordinator. 2019, he went to the Jets as a running back coach. 2021 to the Eagles as a consultant. 2022 to the Jacksonville Jaguars as a passing game coordinator. And then 2023, the Colts hired him as their offensive coordinator. So that's one Jim Bob Cooter. Moving right along here, we have defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley. Now, Gus goes back to 1990, Benny, with North Dakota State as a graduate assistant, Fort Lewis College as a defensive coordinator, North Dakota State as a linebacker coach, and then as a defensive coordinator, and then as an assistant head coach, defensive coordinator, and then as assistant head coach, linebacker coach. And let's see here, again, through 2005, he was the assistant head coach there at North Dakota State. Started with the Tampa Bay Bucks as a defensive quality control coach back in 2006 and coached linebackers for the Bucks. Also coached for the Seattle Seahawks as a defensive coordinator, rather. Jacksonville Jaguars, he had some time as the head coach. 2017, he became the defensive coordinator. That was till 2016, so they let him go. He went to the Chargers as a defensive coordinator, to the Raiders as a defensive coordinator, and now in 2022, 2023, he's with the Colts as the defensive coordinator. So he's got a total of 33 years of coaching with 17 in the NFL. So he's got a long and somewhat successful career, I would say. I'll let you speak on that a little bit more. Next up is special teams coordinator Brian Mason. Brian looks to have joined Cincinnati as a special teams coordinator in 2018 after working from 2009 to 2016 with a number of colleges, including Kent State, Purdue, and Ohio State. 2023, he became the special teams coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. And then finally there, we have the Brain Trust. Now, I remember saying last week when I was looking at the quarterbacks, and I was wondering whether it made sense to include second string quarterbacks because so many of those guys were beginning to take that backup quarterback job after being a starter and, actually looking forward to helping a recent draftee. I don't know if that's the situation here. You've got Gardner Minshew, recently the backup for the Eagles, following Shane Steichen down to the Colts. You've got high draftee Anthony Richardson, and you have Sam Ehlinger. Now, I'm going to just read a little bit from an article that I did a little bit of research on where they were looking at all three quarterbacks. It says Shane Steichen said he was pleased with Richardson's progress during the offseason program. He said, don't read too much into the Colts divided up snaps between Richardson and Minshew. Only a handful of those practices are open to the media. With that in mind, we did hear some encouraging things during the offseason. Minshew's veteran mindset and knowledge of Steichen's offense, okay, since he was with the Eagles, seems like a real positive whether he starts or not. Richardson's maturity, work ethic, and coachability all were consistently praised. This is Sam Ellinger's third season with the Colts. And so he's there as probably the third string. It looks like the battle's going to be between Minshew and Richardson. And obviously, as high as they chose Richardson, I'm assuming that that's who they really want to start. But Gardner Minshew didn't perform too badly and he had to come in with the Eagles. We know what he can do. He brings a wealth of experience. And he gives them an option that they don't necessarily have to start Richardson this year. What do you think there?
All right, let's start with this quarterback mess. First of all, Gardner Minshew is only there because of his veteran presence, because of the fact that he did work in Shane Steichen's offense here in Philadelphia. He's the stopgap in case Anthony Richardson isn't ready to start. Anthony Richardson was drafted to be the starting quarterback, and he was drafted high, which means they expect him to be playing this season. Poor Sam Ellinger. Bided his time, worked his way with Frank Reich, was coming up just waiting his chance to get in there and play. You know, when Wentz came over, Ellinger probably said, "Oh, this ain't gonna last long. I'm gonna be the starter in another season or two." Now he's got to start from square one with a brand new head coach and a brand new system. So he's screwed. That's where their quarterback situation is right now. As soon as Anthony Richardson is ready, or if in fact Anthony Richardson is not deemed to be ready at the beginning of the season, as soon as Minshew stubs his toe or does something goofy, Anthony Richardson is the starting quarterback for this team. Now, Shane Steichen, I will give him props. He has worked with many, many good quarterbacks. Some veterans, I'm sure. I think you named Phillip Rivers. Those kind of guys, I'm sure he learned a lot from, especially how to talk to quarterbacks, what they like, what they don't like, how to manage them, okay? But he's been around a little bit, and he's got that part of it down. He's also got play calling down. He did that very well for the Eagles last year. So I like Shane Steichen as a play caller. Jim Bob Cooter is an advisor at this point. I would bet $1 to a donut. I'll bet $2 to a donut. I'll bet $3 to a donut I don't even like. But Shane Steichen calls all the plays this year. Jim Bob Cooter is only his assistant and will be advising him during the week on game plan. But Steichen will be running the offense. Gus Bradley, I have tremendous respect for. Gus Bradley coached the Seahawks Legion of Doom. In fact, some people would say he created the Legion of Doom.
Oh,
Of Boom, rather.
really?
Okay. Yes. And when he left there, I remember reading and seeing on TV several players saying how upset they were that he was gone. They loved him. So the problem with their defense won't be the coach, it'll be the players. We'll have to see if they have enough talent over there for him to really work with and get these guys up to snuff. Brian Mason, if I remember correctly, sounds like he's been a special teams coordinator in a couple of different organizations. So, you know, he should be okay. But yeah, that quarterback situation is going to have to get hammered out pretty quickly. But I'm sure that Shane Steichen thinks he can turn Anthony Richardson into Jalen Hurts. That's the plan.
Well, he's got an athlete. If there's anybody who could possibly do it, you know, he's got the athletic capability. So he's going to have to become as serious as a Jalen Hurts, and that's a serious task right there because Jalen is no joke. Jalen's serious. So, okay, there's your readout on the Indianapolis Colts. Shane Steichen has his work cut out for him. And his number one job is to figure out who his quarterback's going to be. So, isn't that all of our number one job then? Last but not least, we have the Houston Texans. GM Nick Caserio, head coach D'Amico Ryan, offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, defensive coordinator Matt Burke, special teams coordinator Frank Ross. And yes, I did get a little carried away with this, but I only have two quarterbacks here, CJ Stroud and Davis Mills. So let's start out talking about one D'Amico Ryan. And he spent 6 seasons with my beloved 49ers. He helped lead us to the NFC Championship. He was the linebacker coach. He was a defensive quality control coach before becoming a coordinator. He was drafted in the 2nd round by the Texans, so he's somewhat home here in the 2006 NFL draft, playing for them from 2006 to 2011. Played with the Eagles from 2012 to 2015, and when he was with the Texans, they claimed the franchise's first AFC South title. So he had a little bit of success with them. He has the Texans record for the most tackles by a rookie and currently sits at the 2nd leading tackler in franchise history. So I guess they had to be happy to see him come along. Now, I think I skipped over one Mr. Caserio there, didn't I?
GM is Nick Caserio.
Yeah. Long story short, D'Amico had a 10-year playing career. He was the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. He won a number of awards during that time. He played linebacker at University of Alabama and was a unanimous All-American selection, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, earned first-team All-SEC honors in 2005, and earned defensive MVP honors in the 2006 Cotton Bowl, and was selected as the 2005 Lott Trophy recipient for his combination of athletic excellence and off-field achievements. All right, Benny, so let's talk about general manager Nick Caserio. Now, Nick was a standout quarterback at John Carroll University, where his team compiled a 33-7-2 record in the 4 seasons he started with the team. He was a 2-time captain, 3-time all-conference performer. He helped the team to a 10-2 record and the team's 2nd appearance in the NCAA Division III, where he advanced to the national quarterfinals. He entered the coaching ranks as a graduate assistant at Saginaw Valley State. He spent 2 seasons with the program, joined the Patriots scouting department in 2001. During that time, his role was expanded to include film breakdown and scouting report preparation for the offense. He became an offensive coaching assistant in 2002 and returned to player personnel in 2003 as an area scout. He also wound up with duties in the personnel department and handled coaching booth responsibilities for the coaching staff on game day. He had a 3-year stint as the team's director of pro personnel, and he coached the Patriots wide receivers in 2007. He had 20 seasons actually with the New England Patriots, and which he was involved with them during 9 Super Bowls that they went with 6 wins. So he was there during their heyday, instrumental in drafting and developing players who were essential pieces of one of the most successful dynasties in NFL history, named Director of Player Personnel in 2008. In Houston, he started to lay the foundation for their program. And I remember, Benny, he went there in the midst of one of their turbulent periods. And it was like there was something weird that went with him being there. I wasn't sure. Maybe you can help clarify there. But I remember it was him going there. It was something weird about that. So I'm gonna let you.
It's funny, as you're talking about him, I'm thinking the same thing. I can't remember the specifics, but there were some players that were extremely unhappy with him for some reason. Very, very unhappy with him for some reason. It was some shady. I actually saw a quote where a guy called him a clown freak.
Okay.
I have no idea what the hell that means, but yeah,
mackerel.
His beginnings with the Houston Texans was not pretty, but the owner decided to keep him on. I was going to let you finish him, but he screwed a couple of coaches, man.
Yeah, he had black coaches coming in.
They brought Lovie Smith in. They got rid of him. They brought another guy, another African-American coach in before him and iced him. It's like, see if you can fix this mess. You can't? What do you mean only 1 year? Get out of here. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I think I kind of felt that way with D'Amico going there, as one of my Niners. And I'm like, okay, I hope this works out better for you than it has for some of those other coaches that preceded you. But D'Amico's, he's got such roots with Houston.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're beyond that now, that they're actually going to give a real chance to try to get this thing going.
Okay, all right. We'll move on to offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, who is out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Attended Michigan Tech, where he played wide receiver. In 2010, he became a video assistant with the Commanders and then became their defensive assistant coach. He became a quality control coach for the Niners back in 2017, and then became an offensive assistant before becoming the offensive passing game specialist and the passing game coordinator, all with the Niners. And in 2023, he became the offensive coordinator with Houston Texans. So fundamentally, D'Amico took his coach with him.
You had to start somewhere.
Yeah, I start somewhere, I'm telling you. So that's pretty good that he was able to make that move. Apparently, it says here that he was part of Kyle Shanahan's original staff in San Francisco. So he's been there.
That's a plus.
That's a plus. He helped coach Kyle Juszczyk to Pro Bowl honors in 2020. So I want to move on from that. Let's talk about the defensive coordinator, Matt Burke. Matt Burke goes back, Benny, to 1998, where he was a secondary coach at Bridgeton Academy, became the graduate assistant at Boston College and the secondary cornerback coach at Harvard before becoming the administrative assistant for the Tennessee Titans. He then became the defensive assistant quality control coach for those Titans before moving on to linebacker coach with the Lions, the Bengals, and then the Dolphins. He became the defensive coordinator in 2017 for the Dolphins and became a defensive assistant in 2019 for the Eagles, becoming their run game coordinator and defensive line coach in 2020. He became the director of game management for the Jets in 21, coached the defensive line for the Cardinals in 2022, and then became the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans in 2023. So that's Matt Burke with coaching experience going back to 1998. He played safety in Dartmouth, Benny, and was part of the school's undefeated Ivy League championship team in 1996. So that's one, Matt Burke. Special teams coordinator Frank Ross in 2011 became an assistant for the Patriots. He coached the quarterback at John Carroll in 2013 and became an assistant running backs coach. He became a scout for the Patriots in 2015, becoming an assistant special teams coach in 2015, scout for the Patriots, 2018, assistant special teams coach for the Colts, before becoming the assistant or the special teams coordinator for the Houston Texans. Now, again, we have a couple of different quarterbacks that I included when we took a look at that. C.J. Stroud. Now, what they have on C.J. Stroud, who is, what was he, the second pick in the overall draft?
Right.
Says, as advertised in 2 seasons at Ohio State, he was regarded as one of college football's most prolific passers, lauded for his accuracy and touch. Therefore, it should surprise no one he has already impressed NFL coaches and players with those abilities in under 2 months as a pro. Let's see now. Head coach D'Amico Ryans has said Strauss is way, way ahead of pace in early June. And veteran backup quarterback Case Keenum said last week that Stroud's presence is that of a 4 or 5 year vet, not a rookie. His ball placement has stood out throughout the spring, and his passes have rarely been off target. It says he is yet to run exclusively with the first team offense and has split reps with David Mills. He say he's special, but they believe he will eventually become an excellent professional quarterback. So that kind of depends on how that goes with the Texans. So C.J. Stroud, we both like Davis Mills, didn't we?
I have a lot of respect for Davis Mills, considering what he had to work with, which wasn't much. And the fact that he played hard. He took a lot of hits, a lot of sacks, but he kept getting up. He didn't miss games. He played injured, did what he could for the organization. And I think he, along with a lot of the other players on the team, respected Lovie Smith and what Lovie Smith did for the organization. Davis Mills is a veteran, but he's a young veteran. He hasn't been around a long time, but he's seen a few highs and a lot of lows. And I'm sure he can help C.J. Stroud. If they have Case Keenum down there working with these guys, either as like a quarterback coach, I don't know what his standing there is with the team, but if Case Keenum likes C.J. Stroud, then I think that means something. Because Case Keenum knows what it's like to be a starting NFL quarterback. He also knows what it's like to be a backup NFL quarterback and have to be ready to deliver when necessary. Case Keenum's been through pretty much all the fires, so he knows what he's looking at. I don't want to say a whole lot more about Nick Caserio than I've already said. I'm not sure this guy's completely on the up and up, but whatever. D'Amico Ryan, I have a lot of respect for. He was a really good player when he played. And he was a really good defensive coordinator for a really good team when he was with the 49ers. So I wish him all the luck in the world. But as far as building his staff is concerned, Bobby Slowick coming up on the offensive side of the ball under Kyle Shanahan, and them being on the same staff for at least a couple of years, I can understand him bringing Slowick over with him, but he doesn't really know what he's going to get from him. And Matt Burke, this is his first time being an NFL DC, unless I missed something that you said. So we don't know exactly what we're going to get from him either. So, you know, the Texans have a long way to go personnel-wise, and they don't have great established coaches. Everybody's new. The whole staff is new. So I don't know what we're going to get here, but, you know, I'm rooting for Ryan.
Rooting for D'Amico. Well, I'm rooting for D'Amico also, man. I hope things work out. I hope he's able to pull it together there and give those Colts and those Jaguars and those Titans some competition, and we'll see what happens.
Right. So that's the last team?
So that's the last team, Benny.
Okay, so let me make my prediction like I did for all the other divisions. There is very little doubt in my mind that the Jacksonville Jaguars are the class of this division. Tannehill's on the downside. The quarterback situation in Indianapolis is all over the place. And you got a brand new brain trust in Houston that has a whole lot to prove and hasn't really proven anything besides D'Amico Ryan's proven that he can call a defense. So, yeah, Jacksonville's looking like the class of this division. I don't think they'll have any trouble winning this division.
Yeah, I can't argue with you. Cannot argue with you there. You've got a situation with the Colts where, you know, another rookie quarterback, you know, right there, and you know, and Minshew. You know, you've got a situation with the Titans, and you're not quite sure if Tannehill's really going to be able to deliver. And there was some questions about whether they were maybe thinking about trading Derrick Henry. Had you heard anything like that?
Yeah, there were some whispers.
There were some whispers.
Without Derrick Henry, they're not going to win no damn games.
They're not going anywhere without Derrick. Yeah, it rides on his shoulders. Next week, Benny, the NFC South. Back to the NFC. So this should be an interesting group that we talk about for the NFC South. Who's in that division?
New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Carolina Panthers.
Panthers, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, no, it was funny because the quarterback for the Panthers is now with my Niners. Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold went to the Niners, and Baker Mayfield came over to Carolina, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And Tom Brady's gone, and Derek Carr comes over to the Saints from the Raiders. Yeah, I kind of know how that division is going to go already.
Well, before you say, we're going to take a look, Benny, at the Ben and Barry Facebook page and talk about some of the hot topics and current events that are going to be there. Benny, we're going to start out with the USFL championships. Last week, we watched the division championships between the Pittsburgh and what's in Pittsburgh? I forget. The Maulers, Pittsburgh Maulers, and the Michigan Panthers, and in the South Division with the Birmingham Stallions against the New Orleans Breakers. And I was liking the Breakers going into that game. The Breakers got spanked.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, Birmingham Stallions are, excuse me, defending champions. Maulers with the defense were able to handle the Panthers. That was a pretty good game, actually. Panthers did threaten, but they just, it was a little surprising how well the Maulers offense played. But their defense was so good, they kept giving them chance after chance after chance. And if you do that, you let it a team with an inferior offense, you give them enough opportunities, they're going to put points on the board. And that's what happened in that game. Yeah, but I got to go with the Stallions and the chip.
Mr. Magoo.
Mr.
Had the
Magoo.
game of his life.
Yep.
He had the one play, Benny, where he was back in his own end zone, and they chased him out of the pocket, and he was running to, I believe, his right, and threw a dime to a guy on the sidelines and got, because they were, I think that was like third down or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he was pulling the rabbit out of the hat time after time after time, you know, and I think he was MVP of that game.
Probably should have been.
Yeah. He's got people talking about whether or not there's a place in the NFL for him at this point. Again, a guy who will run, and many times, Benny, he did not slide. But at this particular point, I wasn't too mad because, you know, it's all the marbles now. So, but I think he could have slid a couple of times. You know, he might need to rethink that that move just to make sure he gets through the game, and, you know, especially in the championship game. So right now you've got the Pittsburgh Maulers against the Birmingham Stallions in the championship game, and you like the Stallions.
I got to go with the Stallions.
Yeah, I can't blame you there. I can't see why they can't handle the Maulers, but that's that defense that'll see if they can wrap up Mr. Magoo. So looking forward to that game. That game is this Saturday, so it's not far off. Mr. Magoo was on the all-USFL team. If you go to Ben and Barry in football, you'll see the complete list of that team there. Benny, they're canceling Keyshawn, Max, and Jay in the morning.
I enjoy that show.
I watch it every once in a while.
I watch them every morning because they come on really early.
They do.
And I get up early so I don't have to rush to get myself together before I have my first clients. So I'm able to watch this show. And excuse me, it's a good mix. Those three guys work really well together. Max has been around. He's been a journalist. He's been a commentator. So he kind of knows a little bit about all the sports. But I remember when Max first came up, he was all about boxing.
Yeah.
He was the boxing guy.
Right.
You got Keyshawn, who played in the NFL, and you got Jay Will, who could play in the NBA.
Right.
And they both are sports nuts enough that Jay Will can talk football and Keyshawn can talk basketball. So it's a good mix. It's a good show. Why are they canceling out? But there's a big upheaval at ESPN anyway. They're firing people left and right. They're letting people go all over the place.
They're making some changes. I understand they're bringing in, who's the guy who's Aaron Rodgers was always on his podcast.
Oh,
He's coming in with a new show in the morning.
Okay, that's going to be interesting.
That's
McAfee.
McAfee, yeah.
First of all, McAfee is funny as hell. Okay, he's a real cut up, man. You like Carton, you're going to love McAfee. All right. But
he's a lot more showy than Carton is, though. He's got the
very
big
showy.
buckle belts and
yeah,
crazy
and he
hair.
wears the black tank top all the time.
Right.
And you know who else? He on the side, he's got a side gig working for WWE.
No wonder.
Being a commentator for wrestling. Oh, he fits right in. It's perfect.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's perfect. So we'll have to see how this works out. Yeah.
But I'm sure these guys will land someplace. I'll be looking forward to seeing where they land at.
Oh,
Max is already on TV all day long on
yeah,
this.
Max is cool. Max got his own show.
Yeah, he's fine. So everybody's gonna land on their feet. I'm not too worried about them. This is last week's show, June 21st, the Ben and Barry show. We talked about the NFC North at that time. And speaking of, this is a guy who used to be with the NFC North. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers advocating for the legalization of psychedelics? Apparently he's done these mushrooms and there was actually a chart where he showed his results before the mushrooms and after the mushrooms. And apparently they were dramatically better after the mushrooms.
Well, there's a program, you could probably catch it. I can't remember the exact title, but I'll get it to you as soon as I figure it out. It's been on ESPN. It's not a 30 for 30. It's whatever that other program they have is. And they're talking about psychedelics for pain management and anxiety. And it's all these ex-players from different sports who went through injuries and all kinds of problems and were pretty freaked out. And they've been taking psilocybin. Psilocybin, I'm sorry. I like to say psilocybin, I don't know it. Psilocybin to help them out. And they're all like thrilled with it. It's working really well for them. It's an ESPN program. I'll figure it out. I'll get it to you.
All right, we'll post that link on Ben and Barry on football.
As far as making you a better player, I don't know about that.
I mean, he posted the stats and looking at
if it's working for him, that's wonderful.
So, but that's in a league that had been so staid for so long, and and with the drug testing and everything that they do, with the way things are changing nowadays, it just makes it more difficult. I'm not sure. What have they done as far as marijuana in the NFL? Do you remember?
I don't know, but I saw an article just today where Travis Kelce said he believes 80% of players in the NFL smoke weed on some level.
80%?
80%.
Wow.
That's just him talking, but I'm just saying.
That is amazing. We posted the clip about the receiver from the PTTFL. He was with who was he with again? They lost
Michigan Panthers.
The Panthers. So we got a chance to see him, but as I said to you, better catch him now because he probably won't be there after last week's game. Congratulations to Skip Holtz, named the 2023 USFL Coach of the Year for those Stallions. So there you go. And it helps to have a guy like Alex Magoo throwing TDs, 3 in the first half against the Breakers. That always helps. So congrats to the Stallions for reaching it. Tragedy in the NFL, Benny, and a former NFL quarterback, Ryan Mallett, dead in a drowning accident. Don't know the backgrounds on that, but it's just so sad. Young man, completed his NFL career, and then, you look to have a great life afterwards, and that life is short.
He was coaching high school in Arkansas. He played for the University of Arkansas, was a really, really good college quarterback. This, we talked about this before, guys that are really good in college, but just don't quite make it in the NFL.
Right.
Had a few seasons as a backup for a couple different teams, but he did go back to Arkansas, was coaching the high school team. I don't know if he was on vacation or whatever, but he was in Florida and they were swimming off the Gulf Coast. And the story I read said that several people, I don't know if there's like a strong current there or something, but they said there were several people that were in the water, and seemed to be struggling for whatever reason. And yeah, he didn't make it.
That's sad. That's sad. It's so many times you hear these things, and I know you've got these different types of beach swirls and all of that stuff. Me and Chris will go to the beach. We walk along the edge, then we go up get in the pool.
Right. Get your feet wet, and that's it.
That's about it. So rest in peace, sad news for the NFL family. So Benny, apparently Isaiah Rodgers isn't the only guy that's about to get spanked for gambling.
Dude, what's wrong with these guys? Didn't they just see, what's his name? Ridley?
Yeah.
What? I don't understand. What makes them think they're going to get away with this? Now, I believe this article, if it's not this article, there was another one that gives the very specific rules of what the NFL will not tolerate.
Oh, it's this article. You want me to give them to you?
No, I remember what they were, but you can go over them.
Well, I'm going for the audience that's don't bet on the NFL.
Period.
One rule.
Surely do not bet on your own team.
Don't gamble at your team facility while traveling for a road game or staying at a team hotel. Don't have someone bet for you. Don't share team inside information. Don't enter a sports book during NFL playing season, and don't play daily fantasy football.
That's crazy. You can't play fantasy.
That's what it
well, guess
says
what?
here.
You can make money playing fantasy. They don't want these guys doing it.
These guys are in the NFL, man. They worrying about making money with fantasy. Gee, me Christmas.
Then what are they gambling for?
I don't know. But four
At least
Detroit
fantasy
Lions
is fun.
players and one Commander players were suspended. Quintez Cephas, wide receiver, safety CJ Moore, defensive end Shaka Toney, wide receiver Jameson Williams, and Stanley Berryhill from the Lions were all suspended for 6 games each for mobile betting that occurred at the Lions facility.
Right. So all they're doing is going on their phone and going to DraftKings or something and placing bets, just like any normal red-blooded American would do. But if you play in the NFL, you cannot do that. And you can't bet on nothing during the season. Now, in the off season, you can go in a sports book. You can bet on hockey or baseball. They're allowed to do that. But during the season, you can't bet on nothing.
Okay. Well,
Sounds pretty simple.
The 2 Lions players have already been released, according to the article.
Yeah, because they weren't good players. Yeah. Jameson's going to be a star, so they kept him.
Okay.
He'll ride out he'll be back. He got 6 games. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. All right. Well, let's close this out on a fun note, Benny. Happy birthday to one Mike Vick.
Mike Vick. Wow.
Mike Vick.
I was just talking to somebody about Mike Vick. I can't remember what it was about.
Well, I can tell you, we talked about Mike Vick because he was with one of the rookies.
Right.
And he said he thought he should improve his passing. Was it the rookie or was it?
Was he talking about film study or something?
Oh my God, who was it? I'm wondering if it was Lamar Jackson that he was with.
It wasn't.
It wasn't Lamar, but it was somebody like that he was telling them to work on their passing and not run.
Oh, right. Now, not to worry about running so much.
Right.
Work on your pass and make sure you can throw the ball. Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, of all people, but who would know better, right? Than Michael Vick, the guy who was told to study film, put it in the trunk of his car, drove home, never opened the trunk, drove back and told the coach he watched all the film. Didn't watch any of it.
Didn't watch anything. It's almost like today they have I guess you could call it the Mike Vick rule, where they give you the computer, you take it home to study the film, and then you bring it back. They know how much time you spent on the computer.
Right. But he did turn himself around.
Yes, he did.
Supposedly, when he got off the dog thing,
When he got out of jail.
and got out of jail, and he really took a chance on him. Supposedly, he studied super hard.
He was a completely different guy, and I had to admit, as a I'm not an Eagle fan, but you had to kind of like what the Eagles did, that they gave him that second chance.
Absolutely,
especially with the resistance that they were getting from all the dog lovers in the Philly area.
Yep.
So he did. He spent his time, paid his time, came in and turned his life around, and was extremely productive for the Eagles.
Yep.
So when Mike Vick came out on Madden, they came out with this thing. It was like a light that would shine from when the quarterback would drop back, and the width of the light was supposedly matching his vision. And so you had a guy like Tom Brady that would drop back, and the vision included the entire field.
Right. Spread out.
The difference was that you had to throw within the vision to get the accuracy that you needed. Or let's say if he was a 99 in accuracy, you had to throw within the vision. If you were outside the vision, you're not going to get that type of accuracy. So Mike Vick, his vision looked like a pencil. I'd love to play with him, but I couldn't, because I wasn't that good to just line it up in that one little line and get the ball off. They just did not give Mike any love on that vision thing that they had on Madden. But I think they fixed that after they dropped it the next year, so it wasn't so much this year. That was a pain in the what. But happy birthday, Mike.
If I remember correctly, there was a season where Nick Foles was the starter. No, wait.
Nick Foles came in for Mike with what's his name, the coach that eventually came to my Niners, Chip Kelly. That was Chip.
Right. That's when Nick Foles got there first, right? So Nick Foles and Mike Vick was backing him up.
Right.
And then Foles got hurt. But since you were talking about Madden, I'm talking about fantasy now. Somewhere early in that season, Mike Vick was on the waiver wire. Like nobody had it in fantasy because he wasn't playing.
Right.
So I was like, I need a backup. I said, I don't think Foles is going to make it. I'm going to snatch Vick now and hold on to him, right? So I hold on to him. Foles goes down. He starts playing. I didn't start him every week, but I started him the week he had 6 touchdowns and 413 yards in a game.
Oh, my goodness.
It was one of the greatest fantasy games ever. Ever. He scored like 80 fantasy points. It was insane.
Oh, my goodness.
It was insane. People were like calling me up, yo, he's going bananas. Like, yes.
Mike Vick.
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness, what a guy. Such a story. All right, Benny, that's all I got. What you got?
That's all I got. Can't wait to talk about the NFC South.
There we go.
Very interesting.
All right, great piece on your free agents there.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to seeing what happens between now and the start of these training camps and how many of these guys get picked up. We might have to revisit this as training camp gets closer and see who got picked and who didn't.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right,
man.
Peace out.
Easy.